Judith from Redlands, and I'm not Sandy Simon. You're looking at Sandy Simon over here on your left. Our speaker for this breakout session on municipal resolutions, why and how to pass them, is Sandy Simon. Sandy has been working with CCL since 2012. She was a group leader for 2 years, during which time she started her chapter's writing team. Since then, Sandy has gone on to work with National CCL answering help desk questions, but actually she is the help desk, as she just said. So, writing articles for Community, co-leading the print media action team, and heading up the National Municipal Resolutions effort. She passed a resolution in San Luis Obispo in March 2016 and is here today to talk with you about how you can pass one where you live. I want to give you a little background to Sandy. Prior to her involvement in CCL, she worked as a law office manager and paralegal for 38 years. During that time, she served as executive director of the San Luis Obispo County Bar Association and started their alternative resolutions section. In 1991, Sandy formed a nonprofit to create the first mediation center on the Central Coast. Prior to that time, there were no mediation services available in all of San Luis Obispo County. In addition to her law office work, she has a coaching practice since 1998. In 2006, Sandy became a certified professional coach through the Coaches Training Institute in San Rafael. One of the things she did for CCL as national chapter liaison is to coach group leaders on organization and planning. I'm planning on calling her when I go home. And she has coached many chapters on team development, writers' workshops, and passing municipal resolutions. In addition to her volunteer activities with CCL, she also volunteers with the national radio program PRI Living on Earth and with her local Sierra Club, San Luis Obispo Village, and Homeshare SLO programs. Sandy has 2 daughters and 3 granddaughters who live in Los Osos and Laguna Niguel. She lives in San Luis Obispo, where she leads a monthly walking group and enjoys social activities with all of her friends. So please welcome Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Judith. And let me know if you can hear me okay, because I'm not going to yell at you today, and I'm going to give you a break from PowerPoint presentations with my high-tech PowerPoint presentation right here. Go back to the way things used to be already. So welcome, friends, and I'm to the Municipal Resolutions breakout session. I'm going to be giving you an overview this morning about why we want to obtain city and county resolutions, municipal resolutions, some strategies for working on them, and how to use a resolution once it's passed. Then there'll be time for questions, and then I'd like to find out from you where you are in the process of working on your resolutions, if you are working on them. How many are working on them? Raise your hands. Well, congratulations. Well done. So I want to see what kind of challenges you see yourself facing in the months ahead. And maybe for people who have, like Tyler here, who have passed resolutions, we can brainstorm a little bit about how to get past any challenges that you see in your way. So I'd like to start with where we are at CCL, where CCL is in the municipal resolutions project, which I've just named now. I first was introduced to it when I was one of the first admins working on the endorser program. And the first time I came in contact with one, I thought, wow, what is the potential for something like that, where if it was like San Francisco Board of Supervisors and the tens of thousands of people that they represent when that city council passes a resolution just kind of blew my socks off. So I decided then and there that I was going to take over the national, create a national program, and so where we are right now, well, since this conference started, 2 more chapters have passed resolutions, so I keep having to change this number about where we are. But right now we have passed 33 municipal resolutions calling on Congress to pass CFD legislation, plus 11 calling for climate action, plus California, which was the first state to call on Congress to pass CFD resolutions, legislation. So we're well on our way. In California, the breakdown is 7 in Northern California, so you guys have some catching up to do. 2 on the Central Coast, and 2 here, Santa Monica and Del Mar, very recently passed one as well. So we're off to a good start for 2017. So I put some resources on the board. I'm sorry they're small, but the first one is a list of resolutions, which is on the public website. And you can go there, and what it is every month it's updated with a new list of all of the resolutions which have passed, and they're all PDF files. So you can click on a city, and it'll take you right to the resolution, signed, sealed, and delivered resolution. You can download it and print it out and use it in your own. And I'm going to pass around this binder, which I'm going to be talking about for your meetings. I'll start here and just let's make sure that everybody gets a chance to see it. Of course, you've seen it. You can use some of those resolutions, a few of them, in your own binder or pamphlet or whatever kind of handout you want to give to your city council members when you meet with them, to show them some of the cities that have already passed them. They can be the prettiest ones, they can be the ones that are closest to your own population size, whatever you decide. Maybe the wording is something you really like and you want them to see it. Okay, so the next link is to the CCU class. Are you all registered on Community? Okay, if anybody isn't registered on Community, I really encourage you to do so. Community it's just for us, just for volunteers, and it has a wealth of information, including classes and volunteer resources for volunteers and group leaders. I think that binder's, there's an editorial board binder on there, but this is going to be on there soon. The third link is a forum discussion. Are you guys familiar with forum on Community? It's like a bulletin board, This one I started on Municipal Resolutions, and some people have uploaded pie charts, PowerPoint presentations that they've used in theirs, and so that's a resource for you to go to if you want to see what other chapters have done. And the fourth resource here is a link to the Conservative Caucus outreach page, which is new on Community. Peter Brent started. And in there, what you'll find is a wealth of information on messaging, which we just heard about, for conservatives, and handouts for your interactions with them. So why do we want support from local legislative bodies? The effort to enact federal CFD legislation begins at the grassroots level. Congress responds to and prioritizes the will of their constituents. One way we can express our will is through our local municipal governing bodies. City councils, boards of supervisors, city and county commissions are close to their communities every day, are attentive to their local voices, and can send a strong message on behalf of their entire community. Resolutions are basically endorsements on steroids. When a city passes one, they're sending a message to Congress on behalf of potentially many thousands of people. The U.S. Conference of Mayors in 2016 passed a resolution calling for strong action on climate. Every mayor we get on board through our local resolution effort is a potential vote for CFD at the next U.S. Conference of Mayors, which would be a very powerful voice for action. The more that Congress and the Senate hear from local municipalities, the more attention will be paid to passing CFD legislation. Climate change impacts our cities. Cities and counties have many reasons to be concerned about climate change, especially since impacts are felt locally. As weather worsens throughout the United States, water shortages, sea level rise, air pollution, increasingly intense storms, agricultural impacts, infectious diseases, health effects such as asthma and allergies, and wildfires strain our local budgets. While national action to lower CO2 emissions is waiting to be passed, Cities and counties are bearing the financial brunt of climate change's local impacts. These are kind of like arguments that you can make to your council members as well. Climate change is a national issue. A fee on fossil fuels would lower greenhouse gas emissions and begin the transition to clean energy. Federal action on climate change is highly relevant to cities and counties from a financial perspective, as well as in addressing quality of life and health issues. As more and more local municipalities aggregate their call for action on behalf of their citizens, there will be increased pressure on Congress to pass CFD. So that's the why of it. So now where do we begin? Create a team of people in your chapter who want to work on passing a resolution. Meet and develop a plan with commitments and assignments for team members. Identify your target. Do you want it to be the city council or the board of supervisors or a similar agency? Or is there like an energy commission that you should go to first, or do you want to go right to your city council? So be sure you know who your target is. Develop a timeline. By what date do you want to pass a resolution? What can you realistically do, and by when? Identify a potential champion on the council who can help you advance your cause. Does anyone in your chapter know someone on the council or within City Hall, or have a relationship with someone through a service club, a religious organization, or a nonprofit? I'm going to take questions in a little bit. But hang on to that thought. Find allies for your coalition. Who are the people outside of CCL who would be good to take with you to your meetings with council people? Your pastor, a scientist, an economist. People who are influential to each council member are good possibilities. Consider which groups might support you in your efforts. I'll give you an example. When I was thinking about passing one in San Luis, I went to the executive director of our Sierra Club. And I said, well, you guys have dealt with all of these city councils, so which is the most, the friendliest one, and what's the next friendliest one, and who are the people on the council? And he gave me the complete rundown of how to proceed. And then, you start with the easiest, and then you go to the harder, because you've got that support already done. So develop a media list with contact information and create a press release to send out after you pass a resolution, and get ready to hear an announcement of your success the day after you pass it. Your research to-do list will cover the following areas. Local impacts of climate change. What are the economic and health impacts on your city, and what studies and facts can you point to for substantiating data? What environmental resolutions have been passed by your city council? Have they voted for a smoking ban, a plastic bag ban, a soda tax, or related environmental or health issues? You can cite these when you meet with your city council members and in your speeches before the council. What does your city's climate action plan say about lowering greenhouse gas emissions? Every city has to have one in California. What actions does it prescribe, and by when? How will your resolution give voice to the city's plan and go hand in hand with its strategic planning? For council members, how are they likely to vote? What can you learn from their past votes, their politics, values, and concerns? Where can you find information to create a one-page synopsis on each council member to take with you to your meetings? So then prepare for your meetings. Prepare an informational binder like the one that's going around, or a packet to give to each council member when you meet, for them to keep. What things do you want him or her to know about CCL and CFD? Have a PDF file of the contents available in case one of them asks you to send it electronically instead of giving it to them. The binder or folder can contain such information as a proposed resolution that you draft, samples of resolutions which have passed, pertinent portions of your climate action plan, and information on CCL. What are your main arguments for passage of a resolution? It's a good thing to have those on a piece of paper that you can refer to. If your council member is politically conservative, come prepared with information about supporters such as former U.S. Secretary of State George Shultz, who sits on our advisory board, and others who support CFD or climate action. Check out the conservative outreach page on Community. What handouts are available there to help educate and sway conservative members of the council? How can you create a message about CCL and CFD which is effective for them to hear? Point to bipartisan support from economists, corporations, and the Climate Solutions Caucus. Know the names of major CCL supporters. On the main CCL website, under the About tab, check the names of people on the advisory board. You can include an impressive list of names: scientists, movie stars, economists, and legislators from both sides of the aisle, including James Hansen, Don Cheadle, Sylvia Earle, Catherine Hayhoe, Bob Inglis, and David Titley. If you're talking with a conservative councilman, you can include in your discussion the names of conservative leaders in your community who have endorsed CFD. Get a list of endorsements which have been obtained by your chapter and share the public ones with your council members. You can also share the names of other cities in your area which have passed CFD resolutions to bolster your argument for your city passing one. So in drafting your own resolution, ask your legislative champion for information on what would work for your city. Show him several hard copy examples of resolutions from the public page. Oftentimes, the city staff will select one to use. Aim for succinctness, clarity, and simplicity. Develop a resolution that's suitable for your public body. Include language about the severity of the problem and the urgent need for action. Include a description of CFD, its effectiveness, fairness, and economic benefits. You can include scientific data in general terms. Detailed information can be included in an appendix, and I have one in that binder from San Luis Obispo that has such an appendix, which is highly, you would say footnoted, but it's really endnoted, with scientific data that pertains to our area and generally. Lobbying for success. Schedule meetings and meet with each council member one at a time. Another possibility is to do a presentation on CFD at a neutral location and invite all of your council members to attend. Keep your delegation small and pick a primary spokesperson. If possible in your meetings, include a supporter with access to that councilman. What resources do you have in your chapter or nearby college? Come prepared with data and arguments on behalf of CFD. Stay focused on key persuasive talking points. Do practice runs to prepare for objections and arguments. Be prepared with a concise agenda for your meeting. Make emotional appeals, but avoid hyperbole. Do have a story to tell about, if you have one, about how climate change has affected you or someone close to you. Your stories make the issue real and relatable. Appreciate each council member's values. For example, I'll give you an example from my own experience. We had one conservative member of our city council. He was my challenge. And so I did a lot of research on the internet, and what I discovered was that his concerns were open space, water quality, and fiscal responsibility. So we had plenty to talk about. And, it was really up to me to find common ground with him, which we were able to do. But what you want to do is appreciate each council member's values. For example, if they're concerned about open space and clean water, appreciate them for the fact that they care about their environment. Thank them for the votes that they've taken on environmental issues, for their concerns about the environment, and for the quality of life issues for their constituents. Be respectful and politely persistent. Don't interrupt and never threaten, blame, or raise political affiliations. Be a good listener. Opposing council members can provide valuable insights, which is where you can learn for the next city council you decide to go after. It's up to you to find common ground. Be the go-to person for information on climate-related issues for your council. After your meetings with council members, prepare for city council meetings. This is a big process, you guys. Talk to city staff about the meeting process. Become familiar with the front office staff. The receptionist and scheduler can be very helpful to you throughout the process. Get a good grasp of the meeting format. How long does each person get to speak during the public comments portion? How do you get your resolution onto the agenda for a vote? Attend a city council meeting to gain an understanding of what typically takes place. At the very least, you'll have an appreciation for the amount of time that each council member spends doing his or her job. Develop a strategy for publicizing meetings when you'll be speaking to the city council about your resolution. How many people from your chapter will attend and show support? What like-minded groups might appear and support your efforts? If your city council will allow you to do a presentation for them, create a PowerPoint presentation about climate change and CFD. How long can your presentation be? Check with staff. If you have a champion, will he make a motion to agendize your resolution? Agendize is a word I'd never heard of until I started this process. To get your resolution onto the agenda for a vote is agendize. Work for a strong turnout of supporters. Have them wave their hands in support after your speakers speak. Wear CCL hats or other visible attire and sit together if possible. Expect to be limited to very brief statements. Select a few articulate, prepared speakers to present your main arguments. Stay respectful at all times and avoid partisanship. If questioned, rebut deniers by emphasizing their insignificant numbers among scientists. Don't get lost in technical counter-arguments. Treat all questions as serious and important. So success. Now you've passed your resolution. How are you going to use it? Modify your prepared press release to reflect the actual vote of the council members. Email it to local media announcing passage as soon as possible. Radio stations are the most likely to air it, especially local public radio stations. Follow up with the city clerk on transmittal of the resolution to Congress, or do it yourself. You can write a paragraph into your resolution directing that it be sent to your congressman as well as to other interested parties, and the San Luis Obispo one has an example of that as well, which is actually not online. Ask the clerk to send you a PDF file of the fully executed, dated, and signed resolution, and then upload it to the endorser database, because then I will see it and I will post it to the CCL main website for the resolutions page, and you'll be added to our numbers. If you wish, you can send me a PDF file with the name of your and party affiliation of your MOC and the district number, and I'll ensure that it gets onto the list on the public page as soon as possible. Stay in touch with your coalition partners and spread the good news. Use passage of your resolution as an opportunity to build alliances with environmental groups in your area. Use the resolution for LTEs, op-eds, and meetings with your MOC. Point your MOC to the resolutions page on the public website. So, different chapters do it differently. There are no hard and fast rules on how to pass a resolution. Each chapter uses a strategy which fits their own situation and their own community. But here are 3 examples that show you different approaches taken by 3 different CCL chapters. From Ithaca, New York, we had good luck recently by hosting a public event with a presentation and invited city council members to it. 3 of them came, were impressed, and reached out to us afterwards. We gave them resolutions from other towns to tweak to make their own. They were all from the planning committee, so that we were asked to come and answer questions from the rest of the committee, which we did. And then they passed the resolution and sent it on to the entire Ithaca Common Council, which is their city council. Again, we answered questions, and then they passed the resolution. I think that the original outreach was key in that council members sent emails to each other, which I don't think we can do in California. I think there's something called the Brown Act here. And they sent them to each other, and that reinforced the decision for them to come to our event where they were, shown the presentation. The presentation worked well in that it allowed us to explain CFD with graphics and answer folks' questions all at once. We also included a couple of personal stories in it. Personal stories are powerful. One about why our chapter's co-leader founded our chapter because she was depressed about climate change, and the other by a team member about his success getting another town to endorse CFD. Here's one from Minnesota. I'm in Minnesota, and we have a sustainable cities organization that works with cities who have green and sustainable agendas. I got from them a list of the cities and the environmental group or city council members. We will be contacting those environmental groups to ask for endorsements. So they started a little bit differently from the bottom up with endorsements and then used those. We did that with the small city I live in. 2 of us met with a city council member and talked about the resolution, which was to suit the culture of our city. We then presented it at a city council meeting, which gave us a chance to have all attending hear about CCL. This item was on the agenda for the meeting. It was one of the action items and was voted on and approved. We will be working with 4 other city councils in the same way. A resident makes contact with the city planner or the head of the city council to open the door. We will also use a high school environmental group who will work with us to do the presentations. Because of the Sustainability Alliance, it is easy for us to find out who to talk to. So again, they're networking with other groups. And lastly, from Chicago. Chicago is a little different because we have aldermen. But the meetings we've had so far have been encouraging. I made some pie charts to bring to the meeting that really changed the mood and added some sources on the consensus among economists to the Modesto resolution, which we modeled ours after. And actually, San Luis Obispo modeled theirs after Modesto's too. So if you get a chance to look at Modesto's, it's really superior. We've also been making impact packets for aldermen by ward. We go in with a binder replete with our 1-page ask, the resolution, pie charts, and the specific impact packet for the aldermen we're meeting with that day. The meetings we've had have gone very well. So that's it for the overview. I'm happy to answer your questions if you have any. Yes?
Do you have any feeling for whether resolutions can be crafted in a way that frames them to read more palatably to a conservative audience?
Well, they're going to Congress, which is a pretty conservative audience. And so basically, have you reviewed any of the resolutions that are online? Okay, so you've seen that they bear a striking resemblance to one another in that it's like a legal argument that say, because of this, because of this, because of this, then we're going to take this action. What's been happening with, I think, the really conservative audiences is that they're not passing CFD resolutions. They're passing action on climate, mostly back east. And so that would be the response that conservative council would take. They might say, yeah, there's a problem, but we don't know that CFD is going to solve it. So we're just going to recommend that action of some kind be taken. You see that a lot in the editorials as well. Yes?
Can you guys break the yeah.
Sure. So we have a situation where we have close friendship ally on the city council or his assistant with LA, and what we've heard back is that to them it seemed politically strange to pass a resolution when the state of California already did. Mm-hmm. So to them it was just like a non-starter because they felt to bring it up would be, well, we did that at the state level. So
well, I would say that and that's actually one of the things that I was going to talk about. let me just ask, does anybody have an opinion about that question? Does it help us or hurt us to have the state AJR 43 passed? Tyler,
It helps us.
how does it help?
Well, it's one more bullet in your toolkit. One more item in your toolkit that helps you convince Congress or your local MOC to go for this. But it's only one. All of these work together to provide you enough ammunition to convince people that we need to do this. That's my opinion.
Anyone else does anyone else have an opinion about AJR 43? You want to?
Well, the only issue that I've noticed is people aren't aware of it. Even people that are on, legislators, I heard a very powerful legislator go against a carbon tax, and we couldn't figure it out. This was just like a month ago. So I think there's a lack of awareness or maybe not support, and then you bypass the local group. So if you're bypassing the local group, your city council, then you're losing a lot because they may not even be aware of it. So that's my thinking.
That's great, great. I think that's probably true. A lot of people don't know about it. And also, local impacts. I keep coming back to local impacts. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say another issue that that lady R.L. Miller pointed out during her presentation was that a lot of these resolutions are not legally binding, so they might not have as much punch to them. Like HR 43 isn't legally binding, so that should be addressed as well. I mean, if we have a legally binding resolution, that would speak louder, but also, getting the word out about it, so people are aware of it, that there is this, carbon tax resolution is also important. So making sure the communication lines are open are key. So do you have any recommendations to make it legally binding, so that way it has a little bit more punch to it?
I don't know of any system that's set up for that. I think the impact that we have to also remember is that every time we go to a city council and we talk about what's happening with the weather, and we talk about CCL and we talk about CFD, we're educating the public in yet another way, just like we do with our letters to the editors and talking to our editorial boards, right? So, but every time I went to speak, the room was packed. I mean, imagine a room twice this big and every seat was taken. So those are all people who are potential customers for CCL, chapter members, so that's another good reason to do it. Yes.
I was just wondering what you thought was a realistic qualitative timeline for if we started at,
That's a great question. Yes. I don't think that, I think that everyone is different. Now, I did mine pretty much on my own. I didn't really have any help. And I just gave myself a goal of 3 months. I just said, that's it. And that's all I'm going to do for 3 months is this. And in January I started, and by March, middle of March, it was done. But I had some things going for me that most people don't, like our mayor. Can I tell them about our mayor? Our mayor was married to the head of our endorsement team. I mean, little things. So talk about a champion, wow. Yes.
Do you have a feel for at what point you should approach a city council member? Should one first do a public session? I've tried to set up a meeting with my city council member, and he's a little hesitant because, Trump's in office, so nothing is going to happen. But if he were to see public sentiment in favor of a resolution, maybe he'd be more positive about it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's the whole idea behind the groundswell from the bottom up, is to get movement. That's what's behind the Climate Solutions Caucus, is to get movement. And every resolution that we are able to pass is adding another voice. As far as the timing goes, I did it both ways. I don't know that one is better than the other. I kind of think that maybe if you've met with a few of them, I don't know how many you have. We have 5 council members. But if you are able to meet with at least the ones who you think are progressives or liberals or whatever are going to vote for it, And that's a good idea also, is to know who those people are. Meet with them, then you get to work the kinks out of your presentation, for one thing, and then you've got your binder prepared, and then you're starting to think about, well, what would I say in a 3-minute speech? And so I think that maybe that's a possibility of a way to start, just to give you confidence and to kind of get your agenda down, is to talk to the friendly faces, the friendly people first, and then go from there. You have the microphone. Wow.
So I get to speak next. I'm Bob from Long Beach. I started this. I started just in Long Beach a few months back, and ended up, unfortunately, with the chief of staff who met with me, and basically the message I got before I met with him was, I said, "How do I convince you there's enough public support?" And he said, "Well, petitions work." And then when I met with him, I said, he said, petitions are great. You need 200 to 300 probably, rather than 80 or 90. And he said, "Actually, I'm really impressed when you get those little postcards coming to me periodically all the time." It was interesting to see. But I'm frustrated because, again, I got the same response you got from my city council person. And I guess, and then I went to the mayor's office, and it's kind of, at this point, just kind of dead in the water, and I'm kind of trying to figure out, where do I go from here?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that I do offer is individual chapter coaching sessions just about resolutions, and I've met with many. So you can write to me, you can go to the help desk, and we'll set up a time to talk about, what you've done and what you'd like to see and where to go from there. Yes.
Yeah, Sandy, after we get the resolution, what's the next step that we would ask the city council to do beyond just passing a resolution?
It's interesting, because when I passed mine, nothing had been done on the climate action plan for years. And all of a sudden, people were interested in getting stuff done. And so it kind of organically happens, as a result of what we're doing, that they take the next step to start greening up and exploring the possibilities for whether, green energy is cheaper for them than fossil fuel. And so it's funny, we're sort of a catalyst for action. You can look at it that way. And every city's going to have its own process. But you could run for city council. Yes, I think we have time for one or two more. Go ahead.
I had a question. Microphone.
Oh, are you going to ask the next question?
Oh, okay, thank you. I wasn't sure what the protocol. But I'm Robert from Pasadena. And what about the scope of a resolution? I mean, does it always have to be that, CFD, or can we, if they're already sort of there, can it be a wider scope or a more powerful direct scope for more green this or green that? Or do we always want to laser focus on CFD?
We want our laser focus to be on passing CFD, and that's what our resolutions are all about. Yes.
I'm from Chula Vista, the greenest city in San Diego County.
Yes.
But we have 2 Congress people who share Chula Vista. So with the resolution, does it have the Congress people's name and address at the top of the resolution? Do you name them in the resolution, or is it just a generic?
No, generally there's a cover letter that goes to them enclosing the resolution once it passes.
Okay. So then it's a separate document, a cover letter that says, here's this thing that they, and we could send it to other Congress people. Are these usually sent to just one specific Congress person?
Yeah, because, you are going to impact your own congressman. It's just like, you don't send postcards necessarily to other jurisdictions. Yes, Tyler, one more.
I think one more, okay.
Okay.
I live in the same chapter as Sandy in San Luis Obispo County. She worked on San Luis Obispo City, got the resolution, and through her effort, we learned a lot and then went for Morro Bay. One of the things I loved about your resolution that was sent by the city of San Luis Obispo was it went to every city council in the county and the surrounding 2 counties.
Right.
And every school board member in that county and the surrounding 2 counties. What I also loved about the resolution was it addressed what the local impacts for climate change were on our community. So it hit on ag, the drought, and water, lack of water, and it hit on all those things which are very important to our local conservative council members.
Thank
It was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, 4 pages of a distribution list. 4 pages.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I think we need to thank Sandy.
Thank you.
And we have the gift of being able to contact her and follow up with all of our personal ones, so this is terrific.
And thank you for your interest in passing municipal resolutions. This is going to be the year for municipal resolutions, the most exciting project in CCL that's going on right now. So thank you so much.